Department of Health Sciences, and I'm a senior strategist for inclusive excellence for the Office of the President, as well as for the Global Equity Innovation Hub. And I will be presenting our findings from the work that Dr. Kim and I have been doing over the past year and a half, in asking our Black participants who were current students, who were former students, who were alumni, asking them about their experience in the College of Health and Human Development. So we're going to move on to the next slide. I want to apologize quickly and tell you that I have a lot of slides, and this is the exact thing that I tell my students not to do. And initially, I was only going to share a summary, and I even said to Dean Best, we don't need an hour and a half. But as I thought about it, I realized, no, this is an opportunity, a rare opportunity to hear from our students and to put their voices out there, to get recommendations from them. So this is a full throttle presentation, but I do promise to be as efficient and as possible throughout, so that we have time to answer any questions that you have or get any feedback from you. So this first slide shares who the research team is, myself and Dr. Kim, Abby Fisher and Ayanna Boyd. Abby Fisher is just a recent graduate from our health sciences program in public health. She was such an incredible asset in putting this work together and helping us to think out how to roll things out that make students feel comfortable in ways that speak to them. Ayanna Boyd was also an exceptional asset to this work. She's a graduate student in public health. She was just awarded by the CSU Chancellor's Office as a pre-doctoral scholar. And so because of that, she wasn't able to, we had to kind of let her go. Because of this new responsibility that she has to, that she now has. And so, but it was Abby and Ayanna that really helped to make this work come alive, and so I thank them. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the study. I'm going to give us a small timeline so that you have an understanding of how this all started. We're going to amplify student voices by sharing some of the quotes that we received from the focus groups and some of the actionable opportunities that our students said that they'd like to see from the College of Health and Human Development. So I'm going to bring you back to 2 years ago. Some of you who are in this space may remember, if you're part of the college and you came to the college meeting back in fall 2 years ago, when Dean Best appointed me as her fellow for racial equity. And she provided this quote that I've saved and have looked at a few times to remind me. She says, I want every student who enters our college doors to thrive. And for that to happen, it means we have to move up those students who are at the bottom. I'm hard pressed to believe that the students we need to focus on are those students who are Black and Latin. I want us to be intentional about student retention, student success, and student persistence to graduation in the most efficient way possible. So why this work matters, it started with Dean Best. She wants all students to thrive. And so in order for all students to thrive, we need to ensure that those students who are not experiencing the College of Health and Human Development in the way that they should be, that we hear them and that we make the changes that need to be made so that they thrive. And in terms of intentionality, next slide. What Dean Best says, where we need to be intentional is with developing programs, moving all students up, emphasis on all, because that is what equity is all about, and meeting students where they are. Our students, our participants, I should say, in the focus groups did a really good job of letting us know exactly. And when they didn't, we pressed in, we leaned in and said, tell us more. What do you mean when you say X, Y, Z? So you'll hear some of those different examples. So when I started this work 2 years ago, I did a deep dive to look at what Black student experience and what Black Matadors looked like for the College of Health and Human Development. And using CSUN counts and institutional research, I learned when I looked at the time frame between 2017 and 2022, that in 2017, the College of Health and Human Development had the largest number of Black students on campus. That's the yellow bar that's on there. And that number has since dipped. And so largest is a relative term. 394 is actually pretty tiny for an entire campus where at some points we've had over at least almost 40,000 students. So there's some work that needs to be done there, definitely an opportunity there. What this slide is showing, and it's kind of covered. Oh, yes. So we've had students that transferred from other colleges on campus to our college. And I saw this as another opportunity, and I shared this at Admin Council to the college department chairs meeting, and showed how between 2017 to 2022, this is just a snapshot, the numbers of students who came in from other colleges, the number of undecided students, the number 25, College of Social Behavioral Sciences, 20, and so on and so forth. So almost I think this is almost every college. So what is it that we could do in terms of thinking outside of the box? Not necessarily am I suggesting that we steal students away from different colleges, but maybe we can create entry points that are intentional. Maybe we can advertise our minors, or show students a different pathway, or double majoring. But these are other opportunities for how we can increase the number of Black students who come to our college and see our college as an opportunity to major. This was another data point that I found exceptionally interesting. The narrative for our Black and African American students is that they are mostly first generation. We rarely hear about the education of their parents. And I found this to be really important. And what I've learned between 2017 and 2023, the first 3 bars are first-time freshmen who started at CSUN. The first bar shows that for most first-time freshmen, both or one of their parents finished high school or had some high school. The second bar shows that first-time freshmen had one or both parents who earned a 4-year college degree. The third shows that one or both parents had some college. For transfers, the first bar shows both parents earning a high school diploma or had some high school. Transfers, one or both parents earning a 4-year college degree. And then the last bar shows one or both parents having some college. So that sort of blows up the narrative that all Black and African American students are all first generation. Some of them are coming in with parents who have had some high school, had some college, or have earned high school diploma and college degree. So that helps to, again, dispel that narrative about our Black and African American students. Next slide, please. So this is the framework that we used for this study called the liberatory design. This was actually the framework that was used by Dr. Marquita Gamage and Dr. Freddie Sanchez when they were doing their study on identity-based spaces. And the outcome of their study is the construction that we now see happening next to the ATEC building, the new identity-based centers that's currently being built. But this is a great design, and when I learned about it, I thought this is the framework that I plan to use for as long as I can. It is a framework that looks deep into equity challenges. It is a thoughtful framework that's rooted in empathy, encourages us to see the system as it is, and then intentionally, in doing this work, asking what can we do to make this better. And so we didn't only use the framework for just the actual research. As a research team, we used it. So we were intentional about having positionality activities so that we explored our own assumptions and biases. We were a mixed research team, mixed racially and ethnically. We made a commitment to ask the hard questions without feeling like you were sounding as if you were being hateful. we spent a lot of time, ongoing, always, after every focus group, we debriefed. Sometimes the debrief lasted 2 hours in noticing and in reflecting. And then we were also intentional about asking our participants, how could you make this better? How would you want this system to look like? If this was your world, how would you do that? Next slide. So the study design and method, this was a qualitative study, IRB approved, and we used information that we were able to get from institutional research, a colorful flyer. We tried to make it as easy as possible so that students could just scan a QR code. Thanks to Dean Bass, we were able to give a $25 Amazon gift card. The inclusion criteria, you had to have majored in the College of Health and Human Development at some point between 2017 and 2023. You could have left the campus, maybe you've been discontinued, or just left. You're a former student, but you had a major here. You earned your bachelor's or your master's, your doctorate in the college, your alumni, your current, discontinued, and you identified as a Black or African American student or part of the African diaspora. And our research questions centered on the participants' experience in the College of Health and Human Development. So these 7 centering categories were the quality of experience, feeling connected with the College of Health and Human Development, your racial or ethnic identity, the strengths, the selling points for the College of Health and Human Development, the College of Health and Human Development and social media, the barriers that you experienced in the college, and what are your overall recommendations for CHHD? All right, we're going to pause here for a moment. We offered 34 focus groups, 34. Each were scheduled for an hour. We offered them at multiple times during the week, multiple days during the week. We had available 6 seats per session. When we promoted this and when we sent reminders, we always encouraged them, letting them know that your cameras are off, you don't need to show yourself, we just wanted to hear your voice. And so while 71 folks registered, 22 across all focus groups showed up. Now that's disheartening. And at the very same time, not a surprise, and I'll share why with you. I'm in the Department of Health Sciences. Dr. Kim and I are in the Health Administration program. I've discussed in my courses the treatment that Black and African American people have received, especially when it comes to research. The most common story that people are at least minimally aware of is what happened with the Tuskegee study. But there are a multiple of studies that have taken place that have taken advantage of, treated Black and African American people poorly. All you have to do is Google Henrietta Lacks as an example. If you don't know who Henrietta Lacks is, I talk about her in my class. Google and get to know who she is. Her family to this day are still trying to get the financial compensation for all that Henrietta Lacks has provided and contributed to in terms of science and genetics and cell study. I mean, I can go on, not to mention the fact how in healthcare, the level of treatment, there are multiple studies of difference in treatment when a Black male, for instance, is needing cardiovascular treatment versus a white male who's needing cardiovascular treatment. There is a narrative that is false that Black people, that we're tougher when it comes to our health, that we don't get sick as often. That narrative started back in the days of enslavement. They saw people who were enslaved as being inconsequential. There was even a study then where they dug a deep hole, heat of the summer day, and put enslaved people in there and watched to see how many of them would survive. And so that justified the treatment. You can whip them. You can, they don't need food. They don't need water. They can survive. They're strong. So this ongoing narrative from our past and still in our present creates a lack of trust. So why would I sign up for a focus group? Why would I tell you what my experience is about? So it was not a surprise. It is something that I've seen in other studies that I've conducted, focus group studies. Dean Best and I had a conversation, and she saw it in one of her own studies. It is disheartening, but the literature, there's deep literature on on participation from the Black and African American community in research. So, I'm sorry, to go back real quickly. So I share here the whole number. Moving forward, I'm only going to share percentages in order for us to be privacy safe so that no one feels any sense of exposure. So moving forward, you'll see percentages and not whole numbers. So this is the breakdown of the participants. Majority of the people who showed up were alumni. We had some former/discontinued students, and the second largest group were students who were currently completing their bachelor's or their master's degree. We asked them to self-identify, and so we had the majority who self-identified as Black. Some said 36%, 37% African American. There were those who said both, and there were those that said other. If some folks, see themselves as Haitian, as Jamaican, as Trinidadian, they may not necessarily call out Black or African American as their first racial or ethnic identity. That's something to keep in mind. And in terms of primary majors, if you can, there you go. These are the majors that participated in this study. Majority were from health sciences. We worked with IT to have our own program, email account for our research. So we didn't use our personal email addresses, but my guess, anecdotally speaking, some of the participants saw my name, saw Dr. Kim's name in the emails, because we were the contact info, and so they probably felt encouraged to participate because they knew us, because they were in our classes. And so that's most likely why most of the participants were from health sciences, but we did also get participation from the Child and Adolescent Development Department, Kinesiology, Family Consumer Sciences, and Nursing. We also asked them to share with us their status, and you'll notice the percentages will not add up to 100, it'll be more than that, because more than one, a student might choose more than one of these as an option for them. So we had students who declared that they were disabled in the military, first gen, transfer, receiving financial aid were the majority responses, neurodiverse, and other. And then we also asked them to self-identify their gender, and so they wrote in. We did not give them a choice of click this box here. They wrote in male or female, and so the majority of our participants were female. All right, so now we're getting into the actual study itself, and we built in an icebreaker. We wanted to help encourage engagement, and so we thought, why not add a fun icebreaker and ask our participants if they knew who the dean was. So we found these 3 pictures online, and I got permission from Dean Best before I did this, of course, and asked which one is the dean for the College of Health and Human Development, your dean for the College of Health and Human Development. So they were able to silently vote, and then when they were done, we looked at the results, and I would ask, after I told them who was Dean Best, I would ask, why did you choose who you chose? And many of them said that the they chose B because of the books. So that somehow signaled or indicated to them that this must be someone who's in higher education and is a professional. So that was their perception. We thought that was very interesting. The other thing that came up was, I didn't know our dean was Black. We have a Black dean? Mm-hmm. So that comes up more than once in this study, and you will hear what some of them suggested in order to improve visibility. All right, so what we're going to now share is what current students said. We're going to go through those slides. Then we're going to talk about what our former/discontinued students said. And then we're going to talk about what our alumni said. So when we asked, and actually you can move on to the next slide, we asked our current students about the quality of their experiences. And most of them, for the most part, were positive. They said that the advising that they received was helpful. They felt that the professors that they had were approachable. But what did come up, not but, and what did come up was that a sense of, I don't know if I could relate to them or if they could relate to me. You know, there was the need to be able to relate to someone who might look like them. Next slide. The question about feeling connected, this was also mixed. Some felt very connected, some didn't feel a sense of community, and some felt like in their clubs they were able to get a connection, but not necessarily within their classes, within their degree experience. I can't, it's, yeah. Okay, yeah, racial equity and representation. So this is where we got a lot of feedback on was racial equity, was racial or ethnic representation important to you? We did get a small number, I mean, to be fully transparent, we did get a small number who said, well, I can see why it would be important for others, but it wasn't something that I was looking for. It wasn't something that was at top of mind. However, even in the same focus group, when someone would say that, another person would say, well, it was important to me. This was one of the comments that kind of resonated, where they were walking within the college, they saw a poster, don't know what the poster was for, but the person on the poster looked professional. The person on the poster was Black, and it stopped this person, and they said, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. A Black person right here on a poster. It made me really happy because it felt like representation. I see myself as that person. The other theme that came up, which is something that I have always, in the back of my mind, thought that this might have been a feeling, and to hear students or participants say that this was a feeling for them, really solidified, and that is the HSI-ness of the campus. There is a sense of pride that we are a Hispanic serving institution, and there is a lack of understanding that HSI is a federal designation. It sounds like a sentence. We are a Hispanic serving institution. So if you're a person who doesn't know that HSI, what it means, you think it's a statement. We're a Hispanic serving institution. We're a Hispanic serving institution. CSUN is a Hispanic serving institution. And so these participants said, well, what about me? Are you a Black serving institution? So it was this sense of feeling excluded. It makes it, like this person says here, it makes it seem like they're not serving us. And so this sense of feeling excluded because we're an HSI, personally, I see this as an opportunity for how can we sort of broaden what we mean, and you know, the way things are happening in terms of the climate, we may need to do some different work in terms of how we share our HSI-ness, our Black serving institutional, Black serving institutional ness, and the way we serve all of our students so that all feel a sense of inclusion and not excluded. Next slide. Strengths. Advisors came up as strengths, and advisors came up as a barrier. Here's the other thing. With these participants, they had names and receipts. They were very open, very honest, had no problem sharing who, what, when, where, and all of that good stuff. So for some of our students, they said the advisors that they encountered that were assigned to them were great. And here they're talking about an advisor who was amazing, who was very attentive, had all the answers to at her fingertips. Some of the students talk about COVID. That was a little jarring for me because I haven't thought about COVID in a while. COVID feels like 10 years ago. But some students are still, it's still a point in their life that had an effect on their academic journey. And so what they talked about was how they appreciated faculty sharing their own personal stories during COVID, talking about how, just the humanizing aspect. And I think that's good feedback for faculty in general when we're in class. It is, we're not talking about oversharing, but there's nothing wrong with sharing that this weekend I celebrated my child's birthday, or I just received an award, or I wasn't feeling really well. This humanizing aspect, they want that. They want they want us faculty to humanize themselves. And when you're humanizing yourself as a faculty member, you make yourself even more approachable. I'm not afraid to go to your office hours. I'm not afraid to come to you after class because you're human. Something to definitely think about and practice. Next slide. Okay, social media this is where I think we spent most of our time, was talking about social media for all of the different groups. And one of the themes that came up for all groups was, I didn't know that the College of Health and Human Development had social media. They need to do a better job with making an awareness of that. And they gave lots of examples. We, again, pressed in. Tell us, what do you want to see? We had several students say, I'm working on my bachelor's degree. I'm in my classroom. I'm in the health administration program, so I'll pick my program. I want to see on social media someone who's doing the work right now, the work that I'm now learning. I want to see what it looks like for a Black alumni when they're running a meeting and the things that they're saying. I want to see them being an administrator in real time. I want to see what that looks like. I want to see me in the future through our alumni. Why couldn't we have day in the life? Why couldn't we have CHHD social media student team going around the CHHD designated departments and areas in the hallways, stopping students with cameras and mics and saying, where are you off to? Or what did you eat this morning? Or how did you do in your class? Or just some significant point. They're saying that they want to be able to see other students who look like them, all students, not just Black students, but they want to see the real life student. Because in your mind as a student, if you're struggling, you think you're the only one. But if they're seeing students who say, I'm struggling, I have this exam that's coming up, I don't even know how I'm going to do it, I'm scared, they want that. They want to be able to hear other students' voices, and they also want to be encouraged by other students. As us grown-ups, we're like their parents. And while it's nice, and we can be motivating and inspiring, to hear from a student who's at their age range, it makes a difference to be able to hear those voices. In terms of incentives, some ideas they said was CHHD swag. Here's my water bottle from CHHD. Stuff that they can use, stuff that they can wear, stuff that the pens, something that promotes a sense of pride in CHHD, a CHHD t-shirt with a CHHD logo and a CHHD messaging, That's what they want. That's what they want. That would help to build a sense of community. Barriers and weaknesses, much of what they talked about had to do with really systemic things and not knowing or being misadvised. I was not told that I needed XYZ class. I'm going to pause for a moment and say that the majority of our students were so humble. They did not blame anybody. They said, I know it's my responsibility to know what classes I need to graduate. I know that I'm the one that's going into class. One person said, I am not blaming anyone for the fact that I was discontinued, but I don't know everything. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what to ask. I don't know that what I need to do to graduate or that it's time for me to graduate. The way that we register with permission numbers came up, and just the system itself. And so, we asked, how would we make this system better? So we'll get to recommendations in a moment where we can talk about that. Oh, okay, here we are. So for our current students, mentorship. This person says, I wish there were more Black professors and alumni mentors who could guide us. It makes a difference seeing people who understand us. This was an ongoing theme. Didn't matter which group we were talking to. They wanted to see Black alumni. They wanted to see Black professionals. They wanted to see them in their classrooms, as guest speakers. They wanted to see them on their social media. They wanted. Alumni guidance, absolutely, and a structured pipeline to clarify exactly how do I get to my degree. The degree progress report might be helpful for those of us who've been using degree progress reports as a tool for students, but when as a student you're looking at that for the first time, the second time, the fifth time, and you're only looking at it once a semester or maybe even once a year, it is so overwhelming. All that tight information on 5-6 pages, how can we make that more accessible? We have the technology to make degree progress reports aesthetically pleasing and to make it active like a dashboard. Is there a way we can do that? It's no wonder that they're saying that they don't know, and we go back, well, you have your degree progress report. It's like, have you seen this degree progress report? It is hard to read, is what they're saying. So how can we make those tools, which are part of this system, much more friendly, user-friendly? Representation. This came up over and over again, as I said before, hire more people. Now again, we told them there were no limitations in the recommendations they gave us. We didn't talk about financial we didn't point your budget problems. We didn't do any of that. We said, this is your world. You tell us what you'd like to see. They want to see leadership representation. They want to see the dean. They want to see her on social media. They want to know that I may not have a faculty member in my classroom who looks like me, but the person who's running the show looks like me and wants me here. And so they want to see themselves in the leadership for this college, and cross-major visibility of Black faculty across different majors. Okay, and this is the advising piece that came up. And I've said this before, not to beat a dead horse, but to clarify even more the advising process, especially for a student who's coming in brand new to college. Even when you have parents who went to college, I have colleagues on campus who have helped their kids start college. And these colleagues thought, oh, this is gonna be fine. I work in higher ed. And for every single one of them, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. And they come already with the knowledge of higher education. So how can we make this much more clear? Because when it is confusing, that is an unintentional barrier to student success. Outreach. Come to us. Come to our classrooms. Come to our student organization meetings. Come to the Black House. I was invited to the Black House a few years ago to do a talk on doing your resume and how do you market yourself? How do you market yourself online appropriately and professionally? The Black House was packed, the doors were open, people were standing at the doors because they wanted this information. This is an example of going to where they are. This person says not everyone checks their emails every day. And that's the other thing that and I've done it too, I've said this too, they don't read their emails. When we say that though, they're thinking we're saying they don't read. And that's not what's going on. They read, but if you're sending me an email and it's dense, or it's summarized in a way that makes sense to you and other adults who are at your level, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make sense for them. And so think of the fact that this is an equity thing too. If we write our emails that are punctuated, they're bulleted, they're short, they're concise, and we write it at that level, not only will it help those folks whose English is their second language, but it'll help any student who is juggling 1,000 things and only has time, a minute, to see what you've emailed about. So we've got to do a better job on how we content on emails, but also we can't expect students to come to us. We can always say, well, they know where I am, and you know where they are. And so again, it's this humanizing aspect that they are seeking. Reach out instead of relying on flyers, partner with student organizations, and host classroom visits to build career awareness. The systems, I think I said a lot about this already. I don't have anything new to say. How can we, and a lot of this has to do with just CSUN as an institution, but as a college, how can we better improve the system so that it's seamless, so that it is user-friendly, so that it is intuitive to the student, not to us as the faculty, but to the student. Next slide. And engagement, if CHHD showed up more and celebrate us, we'd feel proud to be part of it. This is also a mention of how Black History Month is when we hear all about Black history, when we're on TikTok, social media, Black history, and then during the rest of the year, there is silence. And so if one of the things that we heard, if the College of Health and Human Development wants to be known by its Black students, then they've got to introduce themselves to us as a College of Health and Human Development. If I'm walking in and I'm part of CHHD, I don't even think about the fact I'm part of CHHD. I'm in the health administration program, that's my major. So there needs to be a deeper connection between that's your major and that's your department chair, this is your college, and that's your dean. That was the other thing too. They would call their department chairs deans, thinking that we were talking about the department chair. No, two different people. But again, that's creating that sense of awareness and not assuming that they're just going to pick it up. Community events, student-centered incentives, and social media celebration. Next. All right, so we're going to spend a little bit of time, you can move to the next slide, speaking on our former students. Next slide. So it was disheartening that this was a group that was, their experiences for the most part were negative. And so we said, tell us, we want to know. Tell us all what it was like for you. Some of it was related to health reasons, housing insecurity, food insecurity, physical and mental health issues, and feeling like nobody cares. There was nobody who cared. Nobody cared that I didn't show up. Nobody asked where I was. So this person says I would rate it kind of bad, very bad. I'm not gonna lie, I've got my experience in the housing, the dorms, some teachers and whatnot. Even we can go as far down to my advisor, my advisement, that whole process, I would rate it very poor. So this was this individual's experience. Next slide. In terms of feeling connected, it was, again, a mixed bag, mostly leaning towards the negative. They used words like, I didn't know if I belonged here. I didn't feel like I was a part of anything while I was here. And so it just revealed, again, the depth of disconnection. Racial equity and representation. Yes. One of them said that they think that if they experienced that, it might have kept them here. We had an individual who was so emotionally distraught. It took Dr. Kim and I, it took us time to sort of, when we debriefed, it took us a couple of days to, I don't know if the right word is get over it, because that's not the right word, to process it, because they were so emotional, and about how they said that they were treated. And so it was, it's another reason why using the liberatory design was perfect, because we were able to sit on empathy, we were able to pause in the research. We were kind of using that kitchen table talk, so that folks felt comfortable, and we paused when people cried. And so it was very honest, and we appreciated that. That's what we wanted. So they were talking about wanting authenticity and wanting to know that the college cared for them. I think even someone said that they would fight for me, was a comment. Next slide. The strengths. So despite the negative experiences, I was hopeful when I heard some of the positives, and that there were positives about professors that were helpful. The scheduling, knowing that all the classes are full, but then the department might open up a slew of classes, because knowing that they needed a class was also very helpful. And so, as it says on the slide here, glimpses of support stand out as exceptions amid the broader dissatisfaction. Social media, again, very critical of the lack of visibility of social media, the awareness gap. Some of them talked about, especially this person, talked about how they're portrayed in social media, not always, jumping up and down because they're at a basketball game, or looking, like they're all they like to do is party, just this party-like atmosphere, sort of messaging that why do they always portray us that way? Why aren't we portrayed as a student sitting in Nobbs Auditorium, as a student studying with other students, as a student just simply walking across campus? But we seem to be portrayed as being activated in something, animated. Why is that? Someone said, I'm pizzaed out, or something like, stop pizza-ing us. Stop using pizza to bring us into your spaces or to encourage us. I'm more than pizza. And when we asked about incentives, they said, we don't always have to have incentives to go onto social media. If you, even just a fun pop quiz, I could be sitting in the hallway outside of my classroom waiting for class to begin, and do some fun pop quiz, something that's fun, not something that's course related, but something silly, something fun and silly, something interactive that would help people to be excited to go back into the social media and see who won, in that sense. Barriers. And so, like I mentioned a moment ago, some of the barriers were related to insecurities, food and housing, and health. And so these two were the that stood out. An individual who was living in housing, missed lectures, all because of the asthma attacks that they were experiencing. They weren't able to sleep. They just weren't comfortable. And then we had students who were experiencing anxiety. One student was feeling so anxious, sometimes they would go to class, and sometimes because they were so anxious, they couldn't go to class. And so then comes shame, right? I've missed a whole week, 2 weeks of class. I can't go back in the class now. What are they gonna think of me? And there's the pressure that's related to that. And so there are some personalized issues that we may not necessarily be able to solve, but there are supportive things that I believe as a faculty member that we can do. So for instance, I see Gina Lopez here. I know the names of the students in my class. If I see Gina in class for the first couple of weeks and then I don't see her for 2 weeks or 1 week, I'm gonna email Gina and say, hi Gina, how's it going? I miss seeing your class. Your presence is truly missed. Is there anything I can do? Let me know what you need. Simple, plain speak, everyday language. And when I've done that, and I'm just using Gina as an example, but in real life, when I've done that, Gina will say at the end of the semester, the only reason why I came back to class was because I realized that you saw me. And so if you saw me, that means you would know when I'm not there. Okay, whatever works, or even seeing Gina in the hallway and going, hi, Gina. Oh my gosh, she knows my name. Yeah, taking the time, those little things, like I see that you are alive. But as faculty, if we see that students aren't going, we can reach out using language that doesn't sound like it's a letter from the bill collector. And doesn't read like your cell phone bill. It doesn't sound like they're in trouble. A caring tone. Your presence is missed. Let me know what I can do to help. It can be more than enough. I'm an emergent theme. Oh, and there's the quote. I want my school to fight for me. And this sense of wanting to feel cared for, knowing that you see that I'm alive, even an opportunity to be able to share in a space where I can hear, just paraphrasing from this quote that's here, I can hear how other students are experiencing the college experience so that I know that I'm not the only one who's scared. And then some of the recommendations, the first one I'll focus on, check-in spaces. So this is the idea, I don't know if anyone's ever, as a faculty member, ever done CSUN Navigators. I've done that, it's a lot of fun. Staff also do this. And so this happens during the first week of school, I think, first couple of weeks. And you're outside and you're in under a tent that's well labeled, and students come up and say, we're offering water and snacks, and they come up and say, I don't know where this is, I'm looking for my class, where's this building, I gotta pay for parking, where do I go? And it's also an opportunity to say, how are you doing, while they're getting some water. I'm good, to just strike up a conversation. So why couldn't we have something like that, a booth, strategically placed where students are, where they know where to expect that booth to be, or even a pop-up booth in housing, in the Black House, in the bookstore, where all the students are, and come and ask me. That can help, I think, to alleviate some of the anxieties and fears that some of our students feel. Okay, and finally, the alumni. This was our largest group. You can go on to the next slide. And so keep in mind that each group, whether they were current, whether they were former or discontinued, or alumni, clearly their perspectives are different. And so here we have alumni who are done. They have their bachelor's degree from CSUN, they have their master's degree from CSUN, so they're able to now look back at their entire experience, whether they started with us as freshmen or whether they started with us as transfer students. And so their perspective was pretty much positive in a sense. Some of them talked about how COVID was a disruption in their academics. But overall, overall was a 9.5 out of 10 for someone. I would give it in between medium and good, and then didn't have a real graduation because of the pandemic. They did, and actually that's on the next slide. In terms of feeling connected, Now that they're alumni, are you connecting? Are you reaching out to the Alumni Association? Are you participating? And some of them were, and some of them weren't, you know? So I see this also as an opportunity for how can we again, typically we send out emails and notices. Maybe we should be asking alumni, what is it, or what's the best way to reach out to you so that you still feel this sense of connection from the College of Health and Human Development. Invite us back to the classroom, invite us so that we can share our experiences as a student in the college, and we can also share about our workplace experience. Social media was also another opportunity. Go ahead. Racial equity representation definitely was important. I didn't see a lot of that. It's important that my racial identity be seen, heard, and represented. And so what was interesting is we heard this a couple of times, that they would go to Africana studies, they will be intentional about maybe not just go to Africana studies, but participating in their events, earn a minor in Africana studies, something so that they were still able to experience their Black community, since they weren't getting it from their classrooms or from the college. They mentioned faculty dedication, academic rigor, and they did feel, for the most part, cared for. They felt like the faculty, well, those who spoke, that the faculty that they had, it was not an option for them not to quit. It was not an option the only option was to complete their degree, is what I'm trying to say. Be mindful of the time. Social media, again, this is a ongoing theme. I didn't know that the college had social media, even had a platform. I'm more connected to Sons of Maine Instagram. I didn't know the college had an Instagram. And this was very telling. I couldn't even tell you that Dr. Michelle Best was the dean. Maybe a video from her that says, "Hi, this is who I am." And obviously, but might not be obvious, I've already shared all of this to Dean Best. None of this is a surprise to her. And she is, what might be a surprise to her, you may not know that she is an avid hiker. She hikes all around the world. And so can you imagine if she was like in Bali and did a whole social media thing, and then that went out to CHHD, to all the students, to see their Black female dean in Bali hiking, and just saying, "This is where I am, and you could be here too, and I wish you were here," just something fun and humanizing. Just a sense of care that I think that, and pride that our students are seeking. Inconsistent advisement and just systemic things were also barriers and weaknesses. Advising was also a theme, and processes. So an example of a confusing process, every department is different that offers internships. Some departments have very structured internships where you meet with the graduate coordinator. This is the list that you choose from. There are other departments that where you have to find your own internship. So, and students talk to each other. So it was, for this particular person, a confusing experience for the internship. So this almost seems like low-hanging fruit. What can we do as a department to ensure that the process is simple and easy to understand? And again, this may sound repetitive, but it was essentially a thematic. Be helpful if there were more mixers, maybe a Black town hall with the dean. Mentorship, more about the college and the dean on social media as a social media strategy. Some overall takeaways. I mean, this is the second to last slide. I think we have maybe 3 more slides after this. Overall takeaway in terms of our strengths: urgent work needed and call to action. We are doing good when it comes to advising and it comes to faculty care and academic rigor across all groups, according to the people who participated, right? This can't be generalizable because the numbers were very small, but according to these folks, We're doing good. We could do better. There's room for improvement. But it's good to know that we're doing good, right? I mean, that's a good place to start. Um, Urgent work, representation. They want to see that. Mentorship, fixing the systems that they have to engage in to simplify the systems. More community unifying experiences, improve social media. We ask them, you know, we hear you say that you want more community unifying experiences. I've gone to events where I didn't see a lot that was there, a lot of people who showed up. And so we asked how to better market. How do we promote this in a way where you will want to come? And I think the answer is that when we have events, we've got to go beyond just posting a flyer and emailing. We've got to do a lot more, a lot more. We're talking about our Black and African American community. And call to action to say again, they want visible leadership and authentic outreach so Black students feel seen, supported, and celebrated consistently across CHHD, and not just Black students. They want to see all students celebrated, but they also want to see themselves. And this kind of goes without saying, I said it already, that their priorities, depending on where they were, current students, former students, or alumni, where they are in their academic journey is how interventions should be targeted, and also every individual as an individual is another message that we want to make sure we put out there. There were some distinct themes for each group, but also being mindful of the fact that every individual that we engaged with wanted to be treated like an individual. Oh, okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, or Dr. Kim is going to show a video here. When I was preparing to do this work, and this was even before Dr. Kim joined me, Dean Best had a guest speaker come to campus, Nicole Harper Rollins. Would you click so that it goes all the way to the beginning? Yeah. Nicole Harper Rollins, who is the CEO of McDonald's? Of a group of McDonald's. Fantastic speaker, Black woman. And it was held in the Grand Salon. And so I went and I met this young lady, Michaela, who's on your screen, and didn't know her, did learn that she was majoring in our College of Health and Human Development. And she shared some things that were really incredible. She was so open. We didn't even know each other, but she was very comfortable with sharing what her experience has been like at CSUN and the College of Health and Human Development. And I asked if I could interview her because I knew that we were going to be doing focus groups, and I wanted to kind of, I mean, you know, I was being opportunistic in some ways. I wanted to kind of test out some of the questions and see how she would answer. But also I wanted to have a record, a video record of her experience that I might want to go back to later on. So she wasn't part of the IRB study. She did sign an agreement to allow me to share this video. So it's only about a minute and almost less than 2 minutes long. So let's go ahead and play. Are we sharing sound on Zoom? Okay. It's like, I'm saying my environment going to my classrooms, and it's me, just me, or it's two of us. So it's looking like, you know, I don't know how to explain those stereotypes because I feel like people are very smart nowadays. They're not going to say I was so young, but it's those that look. If you understand what I'm saying, I don't know why she over here, or the right type of thing. I feel like my professors look at you like that too because you see me every day in class, you call my name for the roster, but in the hallway, you walk right past me, or when we go in class, you can't even pronounce my name correctly. I'm the one who's in class every day, I never leave. I do my assignments. It is almost like, you know, most of my assignments. But when I'm with my friend who do the same thing, you know me. Her and other women that I see on campus, I love what they do here for the students and just
surveys. I noticed that's one of my purposes in life, and I
of health.
have so much knowledge. And my experience here has been a roller coaster, the honeymoon experience. But yes, that's my goal. Like, that's why I work so hard. I like, want to work and bust my butt because I would love to come back and say, I've accomplished this, that, and the third, write a list of things that I've done, and come back and be a guest speaker, or even come back and get scholarships. Like, I would love to do that. Like, I would love to get back. But I also feel like I know if I'm not somebody of importance to come back and to speak to these students, it's going to go one after the other. I want to, like, I basically want to put my money in my mouth. I want to show, hey, do this, do that, and give back. Like, I want to come and speak it and make a presence and have an imprint on my life.
Yeah, that was Michaela. And I so appreciated her raw honesty. I deeply appreciated how she was able to share the challenges in her experiences, and at the very same time still say, I want to come back and give back. And even to the point of saying, I need to make sure that I'm at a place where they will feel proud of me because of the work that I am doing. And so I wanted you to get a taste of what our focus group meetings were like, to be able to sit with 1, 2, 3, or 4 people in a Zoom space and have them share with their cameras closed, but have them share their experiences in a very real way. So that was just a little bit of a taste of what that was like for us. This is our second to last slide, and this is where I pass the mic over to Dr. Kim. But let me just sort of introduce what she's about to speak on. So now that we've finished our work with our Black and African American students, we've moved on to a new student community, and we've decided to focus on the Asian diaspora. So that's Asian, Asian American, Southeast Asian, Pacific Islander, the Desi group, and we're folding in Indigenous, First Peoples, Native Americans. And so that was an intentional decision. I think we're going to automatically go into the Latinx group. It just seemed like a very natural transition, and I think that's why we stopped. Because we have the support and the resources and the attention placed on the Latinx group, and there's a group that we know nothing about, which is the Asian and the Asian American and everyone else, including the indigenous folks that I brought up. And so I don't think I said this in the beginning, but the goal of this work is to meet with every single student group, every single student group. So that includes the white students too, and all who identify as white. And I think on our campus that includes those who are Armenian, those who are, if I got that correctly, Israeli. That's the goal. That is the goal. And so we're not leaving any group behind. That includes the Latinx group. We're just now doing this study and focusing it on the Asian, Asian American, Indigenous group. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Dr. Kim so that she can share what we've been doing so far.
Okay. Now you can take a quick break from talking. So we started with the Asian American student group, and we started the focus group on the 25th of September. So far we had about 4 focus group sessions, which was quite surprising because there was a very high turnout and engagement. The first day of when the flyer went out, we started getting registration, and average about 6 people wanted to attend the meeting. In total, we had about 13 participants, and mostly they're alumni students, alumni, seasoned former students, and a couple of them were current students. But I wish all of my students were like that in my classroom. They're so participating and they have so much to share. And that actually shows me that our work mine and Dr. Augustine and Dr. Best's work, it matters to students. It made me feel so good, and we're just patting on our shoulders and thinking, well, we're doing something for our students. So that's what's been going on so far. We have our focus group session scheduled until the end of October, but based on how things happened, we are not excluding the options to extend our study until the January of 26, and we'll try to have a write-up or at least a report early next year.
Okay, yes. As Dr. Kim said, just to kind of amplify what she said, we've started focus groups for the Asian diaspora. We need to do a deeper dive in terms of participation, that participation dynamic when it comes to this group. But yeah, so far we've had a tremendous response, and we've been asking them, why did you show up? And for the most part, they say because of the gift card. But then they say, we've never been asked why. Like one person said, I saw you wanted to speak to the Asian group. I'm part of the Asian group, and I was curious to know what do you want to know from us? And that was an ongoing theme. And I thought, okay, that proves our point in terms of why we wanted to work with this group. So this is the last slide. I'm sorry, I took a peek at the chat and I saw that someone said they couldn't hear. I'm really sorry. If I had known, I would have put the microphone inside, this practically in my mouth so that you could hear it, because it's good work, but I think we're recording. Okay, so it's up to Dean Best in terms of what's going to be happening with the recording, but it's there. There is a recording. And so we thank you so much. I know this was a long presentation. I thank those of you who were on Zoom and also those who are in the room. We're open to any questions that you might have, any feedback, comments. We are open to it if there's anyone in the chat or in the room. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the work that you're doing thus far. This is really
Can you-
illuminating. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for the work that you have done, you and Dr. Kim and Dr. Best. I so appreciate this as an administrator with LAUSD, and what we might be able to do to help to facilitate these pipelines that enrich our students overall. I'm really geeked up about the framework that you use, the liberatory design. I've heard of that in a different context, but really the same thing, cycles of continuous improvement. So that was really awesome. I'm wondering, what was the impetus? What got you on this journey to decide we need to start looking specifically at our Black students, African American, African diaspora, however our students identify, to really elevate their experience and understand who they are and how we might make their college going learning a way that allows them to come back and be guest speakers and share their knowledge and understanding.
I'm going to share, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to you. You knew I was going to do that. I had just come back from a fellowship, the American Council of Education Fellowship. I was living in South Carolina for a year and essentially worked at an HBCU under President Rosalind Artis. And Black students, not just because I'm a Black person, but that is a community that I don't know how to say it without, I'm on mic and I'm being recorded. They're in my heart. That's my heart, okay? I'll say it like that. That's my heart. They're me. I came here I got my bachelor's degree here. I got my master's degree here. This is my 35th year working at CSUN, 35 years. And when I came back from my fellowship and met with Dean Best, she was like, well, what do you want to do with this? And so we talked about our goals were exactly the same. So I'm going to now pass the mic over to you, Dean Bess, so that you can share the why.
Thank you, Frankie. I'm kind of informal, so I don't often call people doctor. So Frankie and Joo, thank you so much for doing this work. This is really important work. We work in an institution of higher education, and very often we make decisions that affect students in very significant ways, and we don't always ask the students about what they want or what their experiences are, how we can do things differently, how we can do things better, and so on. So this work really came from some other things that we're doing on campus. We have been talking for a number of years about the experiences of students on this campus and the equity gaps that our research has shown us on the campus. And basically every study, every conversation, we see that Black students are on the bottom. And if we know something, and Donna, who just asked the question, found this out about me very quickly. If we know something and there's something that has to be done, why aren't we doing something? And so I'd been working on and I still am a part of the Black Student Success Council at CSUN. And we have been, as a council, been doing this work for quite a few years, I think maybe about 5 or 6 years now. And that is a university level council that's set up to advise our administration about the situation of Black students on this campus. And I started on that council as a professor and the chair for recreation and tourism management. And in that position, there was a limit to what I could do on a wider basis. When I became the interim dean and then the dean for the College of Health and Human Development, I had greater opportunity to do things that could impact a greater number of students. Not just students in the college, but students across campus, and I have tried to capitalize on that as much as I could. And then, doing the work at the university level, I became a lot more interested in what is happening at the college level because I had more opportunities to impact what's going on in the college. And the CSU had done some research, was that around the same time? And it showed that Black students in the college were having a better experience than other colleges on campus. But there weren't, I take statistics like that kind of with a grain of salt, because even though they were excited by the numbers, there weren't big numbers. So maybe we were doing better, but we weren't doing very well. So if we're at 32% of something and another college is at 20%, yes, we're doing better, but we're still at 32%. We're not at 75% or 80% or 100%. It was still very low. So as Frankie said, she was away at an HBCU on a fellowship, and when she came back, my perspective was really, well, you've gone and you've gotten this experience. How are you going to come back and help the college with this experience that you've gained? And so we had a conversation, and I kind of knew going in that I wanted her to be a Dean's Fellow. I didn't know how she was going to respond. But the idea was that let's start with the students who are on the bottom. And if those students had been our Latinx students, we would have started with them. If they had been our Native American students, we would have started with them. But all of the research that we've done on the campus consistently showed that our Black students were at the bottom. So that, to me, was a natural place for us to start. And so we started with them. We are understanding the situation better. I am certainly going to take the recommendations and right away start implementing some things. And as a matter of fact, I've had this report for a couple of weeks. There are already things that have happened. I was interviewed on camera. It was on Instagram. Yeah, I don't know if any of these students saw it, but it was there. I have a plan to go around to our introductory classes across the college and introduce myself to people. But there's only one of me and I don't have any clones, and you already know what my calendar looks like. So we're gonna be working on those things. And then because we are true to our word, we're moving on to the next group, because the work is not about Black students. It is about improving what the College of Health and Human Development is doing. It is about making sure that as much as we are able, we can help our students to be successful, and not just success in terms of GPA, not just success in terms of finishing a program and graduating, but success in terms of how their life has changed because they have come to this institution, and because they have completed a degree or not completed a degree or are in the process of completing a degree. We are in a position where we can reach out to students who have come to us and who have not finished their degrees, like some of the students who were interviewed who were in the focus groups for this project. And we can reach out to them and encourage them to come back and finish their degrees. And that's part of the work that we're doing as well, because we know that degree completion has an impact on where somebody's life goes, and that is our intent. So it is going to take a while. This is not a short-term project. This is a long-term project, because what we learn from our students through this work is what we're going to use to help us improve how the college works in the foreseeable future. So it stemmed from, we have this research, we need to do something about what we know. And in order to do something about what we know in the college, we need to understand our college situation a lot better, and then we can take action to move forward. So now we have some action points that we can move forward with.
Any other questions? Comments or feedback? Okay, Jonathan did this to his glasses, and I thought he was raising his hand, but no, he's just adjusting his glasses. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much again for being here. Thank you, Dean Bass. This was really a labor of love. It was a lot of work. I thank God that Joo was with me, that we were doing this together, because it was heavy, especially the emotional part, but it was good, worthy work. And so I am grateful to be a part of all of this. And yeah, I wish you all the best. I wish you well. Thank you very much. And you can